speaking on diabetes and gut microbiota. What do we know and the way forward? We all know that each human being contains around 40 trillion cells and about 22,000 human genes. Compared to that, if we take human gut, then it hosts around 100 trillion microbial cells, that is being termed as the microbiota, and around 10 million microbial genes, that is being termed as the metagenome. This weighs around 1.5 kg, and gut microbiota, it keeps on changing every day, starting from infancy to adulthood to even older age. Mainly, there are bacteria, and from three major groups, they represent 95% of this total gut microbiota. If we take a look at that, then almost 60 to 80% is Firmicutes, 20 to 30% is Bacteroidetes, less than 10% is Actinobacteria. One should keep in mind that Actinobacteria are the major component of gut microbiota of breastfed infants, but in adulthood, this comes to less than 10%. And Proteobacteria, that is less than 1%. So this is the general composition of gut microbiota in an average normal human being. How gut microbiota it leads to disease? There are a lot of internal host factors like age, genetics, stress, physiological processes, the anatomical structure, as well as the physiology of the gut, together with a variety of external influences in the form of mainly diet. Then comes various foods that work as prebiotics, probiotics, antibiotic usage, particularly in infancy, illness, lifestyle, and our environment. All these factors together, they act on gut microbiota, altering their density, diversity, and activity. And this is, if this is maintained in an homeostasis, then there is a health. If there is dysbiosis, then it results in generation of variety of diseases. So this is the basic outlook, how gut microbiota, how dysbiosis and disease, they occur under the influence of this variety of internal host factors and external influences. Currently, we know that gut microbiota is an upcoming area of research, and it has been involved in a variety of diseases, starting from various chronic diseases like fibromyalgia, even cancers, even gut problems like inflammatory bowel disease, inflammatory irritable bowel syndrome, neurological problems, rheumatological problems, and last but not least, cardiovascular and metabolic problems. If we see how gut microbiota affect the host metabolism, they act on various sites in human body. At gut, they maintain the gut permeability, they maintain the enteroendocrine metabolism. At adipose tissue, they play an important role in fat storage. At muscle level, it plays an important role in energy metabolism. At liver, it plays an important role in fat liver metabolism. And if there is dysbiosis, this may contribute to hepatic steatosis. And in cardiologists, they maintain the health of endothelium. There is a role in eye and mouth also, and on central level, particularly on the brain also. Now, let's take a look at how gut microbiota, they are related to diabetes. If we see gut microbiota alterations, they can predispose to both autoimmunity and inflammation, and then they can play an important role in all kinds of diabetes, starting from type 1 to LADA to type 2. Similarly, diabetes itself can modulate gut microbiota, causing structural and functional changes that may contribute to the disease. So this is the way both of them, they are interlinked, and it has got role not only in type 2 diabetes but also in type 1 diabetes. If we see type 1 diabetes, a lot of factors like delivery mode, how the baby was delivered, whether it was cesarean or a normal vaginal delivery, drugs, various drugs that were used, antibiotic, particularly when it is used in infancy. Even there is some data to suggest that pH of drinking water and certain dietary components, particularly cow's milk, when used early in life, all this, they can alter gut microbiome, and through that, they can alter intestinal permeability, they can alter diversity of gut microbiome, they can alter the ratio of Firmicutes and Bacteroids, and they can decrease short chain fatty acid containing bacteria. And through all these mechanisms, they can either produce molecular mimicry, or through innate or adaptive immune system, they will lead to autoimmunity and result in beta cell destruction and ultimately the development of type 1 diabetes. So this is one of the hypotheses suggesting that there are a lot of factors that influence gut microbiota, and this may play an important role in the development of autoimmunity, which is being seen in type 1 diabetes. Let's take a look at type 2 diabetes. Insulin resistance is the hallmark of type 2 diabetes. And we know that the gut microbiome is different in lean people as well as different in obese people. And this gut microbiome, through their extent on muscle, adipose tissue, liver, epithelium, and gut, they can produce effects on fatty acid oxidation, inflammation, lipogenesis, incretin secretion, and butyrate production. Either by enhancing or suppressing that, they may produce effects on insulin resistance, and this way changes in gut microbiota may contribute to insulin resistance and later on development of all kind of cardiometabolic disorders, including type 2 diabetes. This is a very complex slide. These are different kinds of gut microbiota which are there in human gut. They interact with each other, different genera are there that interact with each other, and ultimately they produce 3 or 4 main effects. First is inflammation, second is alteration in gut permeability, third is alteration in glucose insulin homeostasis, and fourth, they act on fatty acid oxidation or synthesis and energy expedition. And by this, they can produce a lot of metabolic effects, and they contribute to cardiometabolic disorders. If we see the 3 main mechanisms through which microbiomes they produce effects on the host metabolism, first is lipopolysaccharide. I have already highlighted lipopolysaccharide, which is there from the outer membrane of gram-negative bacteria, which bind to TLR4 receptor. This activates the signaling pathways, ultimately results in low-grade inflammation, and this low-grade inflammation, it contributes to impaired insulin sensitivity and also to atherosclerosis. Then there is a role of short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids are produced from fermentation of dietary fibers in the colon with the help of this gut microbiota. Mainly there are butyrate, acetate, and propionate. Acetate and propionate, they are mainly substrates for neoglucogenesis in the liver, whereas butyrate is an important energy substrate for colonic mucosal cells, and it maintains the health of the colonic epithelium. These cells, by binding to G protein coupled receptors 41 and 43, they produce various effects on the immune function of the colonic cells, as well as the enteroendocrine L cells which are there in the gut, and through that they alter immunity as well as they alter the GLP-1 secretion, and because of that they alter insulin sensitivity. So mainly if there is short chain fatty acid producing bacteria, then they improve insulin sensitivity by altering this immune function as well as GLP-1 and PYY secretion from enteroendocrine L cells from the gut. So this kind of bacteria are good for metabolic health. Third role is of bile acids. Primary bile acids, we know they undergo recirculation through portal system to the liver again from the gut. Now gut microbiota, they can deconjugate primary bile acids during their recirculation, and this can be further metabolized to secondary bile acids. And the secondary bile acids, again, they can bind to G protein coupled receptors, and the same way like short chain fatty acids, they can alter the immune function of the gut as well as the enteroendocrine function of the L cells of the gut, and through this they can alter insulin sensitivity. So these are the 3 main mechanisms by which gut microbiota can influence host metabolism and can produce metabolic disorders. This is the same thing in a graphical representation, so I will not go in detail of that. But definitely there is a role of systemic inflammation. With dysbiosis, there is an increase in gut barrier or gut barrier permeability increases, so that the bacteria and their components, they can shift to circulation and they can result in development of low-grade inflammation, which can act on the adipose tissue, on the liver, and various other aspects. And this can lead to a variety of metabolic disorders, atherosclerosis, and this can contribute to cardiometabolic disorders as a whole. So we all know that the ethnicity plays an important role as far as gut microbiota is concerned, and this is a very good research from Professor V. Mohan's group, Madras Diabetes Research Center, who had done this research in association with the Dennis group, and they have tried to find out whether the gut microbiota are different in Indian and Denmark, or type 2 diabetic patients as well as normal individuals. And they have done the sequencing which is being used for gut microbiota. They have tried to find out the differences which are there. If we see in Indian sample, there was an enrichment of Prevotella group 9 and Megasphaera, and this is mostly related to plant. This the southern part of India, and related to a higher consumption of fermented foods. Whereas in Denmark, there was a higher relative abundance of bacteroids, and this is probably related to animal-based diet. But they were not able to find out a classical gut microbiota composition, which is typical of diabetes in India or in Denmark. Depending on that, we can say that definitely this patient is type 2 diabetic. So that is lacking, and I think this is a much more complex issue and requires a lot of exploration and research to find out the typical microbiota signal, which can give us a hint that this patient is likely to develop type 2 diabetes in future. They have also showed that metformin treatment was associated with decrease in Faecalibacterium, which is a short chain fatty acid producer, and there was an increase in Escherichia or Shigella, particularly in Danish cohort, but not in the Indian cohort. So this is something on a research basis from our country contributing to this field of gut microbiota and diabetes. Now, how can we alter gut microbiota? Definitely the first and foremost thing is the diet. This is a hypothesis which is suggested in one of this paper by Indian authors, that plant material rich diet, that is fiber rich diet, it can improve gut microbiota and it can produce effects on gut mobility, insulin sensitivity, and various other things, and that can be protective against cardiometabolic disorders. Whereas animal product rich diet, particularly high fat diet, we all know the Western diet, which is high in junk food, high in sugar, high in fat, that is a dangerous combination, and that can alter this gut microbiota, can increase Firmicutes, Proteobacteria, and that can alter all the things which are there, like short chain fatty acids, catabolic enzymes, bile acids and their conjugates, and this will result in insulin resistant inflammation and variety of cardiometabolic disorders. So gut response to diet, particularly gut microbiota, the primary modality of improving the gut microbiota health is through diet, and a lot of dietary components, they help to maintain, particularly the fibers, the complex carbohydrates, they help us to maintain the gut microbiota diversity as well as their routine functionality. Then comes the role of prebiotics, probiotics. Prebiotics are non-viable food components which are easily fermented in the colon, and then they support the positive bacteria which are of positive value in the gut. So these are mostly non-digestible oligosaccharides like derived from fructose, xylose, or various other things. Probiotic, we all know, these are the microorganisms, live microorganisms, which are being consumed orally to restore the gut microbiome, which is there to promote health and to prevent diseases. Synbiotic is combination of both these things, prebiotic and probiotic, and this is a novel approach which is being explored in research for prevention of diseases and for maintenance of health. So these are the ways: prebiotics, probiotics, dietary modulation, synbiotic, we can use to alter the gut microbiota. I have already highlighted, and there is a data to suggest that the TEDdy study, which was a prospective cohort study, which followed children at high risk of autoimmune diabetes, particularly type 1 diabetes, it's observed a reduction in the risk of islet autoimmunity in children who had received probiotics before or at the age of 27 days of life, compared with those who had first received probiotics after 27 days or not at all. So there is some role, there is some data, but it's still in a research mode. So we cannot comment that this is fruitful, but definitely a lot of research is being done in this area to find out the ways to prevent not only type 2 diabetes, but also type 1 diabetes. And there is last method, that is intestinal microbiota transplantation, which can be done to alter the gut microbiota composition and to prevent diseases in human beings. Now I will touch upon probiotics and then role in type 2 diabetes. Particularly, I will touch upon two meta-analysis. This is first meta-analysis of 13 clinical trials, which was published in 2016, and they have shown a beneficial effect on fasting blood glucose as well as on HbA1c, but this depended on the type of probiotic which was used as well as the participants' characteristics. And one should keep in mind that most of the studies they are included in this meta-analysis, they are heterogeneous in nature, different kind of patient profile, different kind of probiotics used, different dosages used. So it is very difficult to come at a conclusion, and this most of this they will give you only weight and mean differences. So they are not that much reliable. Still they give a signal that probiotics may provide some beneficial effect on glycemia in type 2 diabetic patients, certain kind of probiotics particularly. And this is second meta-analysis which was published recently in 2020, involving 15 randomized control trials, almost 900 patients, and they have shown that probiotics treatments, they can reduce HbA1c, the first graph, fasting blood glucose, second graph, and HOMA-IR in this third graph in type 2 diabetic patients. So there is something with probiotic use in type 2 diabetes, but definitely we require a properly conducted randomized control trial on a large sample size to prove that probiotics, they help to provide glycemic benefits in type 2 diabetic patients. Apart from probiotics, lot of anti-diabetic agents, starting from metformin to AGIs, we all know that they alter gut microbiota and they provide probably some of the glycemic benefits to their effects on gut microbiota. But there is an upcoming evidence to suggest that GLP-1 analogs, liraglutide, SGLT2 inhibitors, dapagliflozin, and DPP4 inhibitors, probably they are also having some effect on gut microbiota, and they either promote some kind of gut microbiota or reduce some kind of gut microbiota, and this might be playing some role in glycemic benefits provided by these oral anti-diabetic agents. But still, it is a long time to say that anti-diabetic agents, they provide glycemic benefits, some component through alteration of gut microbiota. Lastly, I will say that gut microbiota is an entirely new field which requires a lot of exploration and research. And so that we can use this gut microbiota not only to identify people who are at risk of disease, but also we can use them for therapeutic modulation, starting from infancy to adulthood to old age, so that we can prevent diseases as well as
you are mute.
Thank you. So I am coming to the fag end of my talk, that there is a convincing link that gut microbiota dysbiosis is a mechanism which accounts for chronic metabolic diseases like diabetes. And gut microbiome balance, it controls long-term health, but $1 million question is, can we target gut microbiota to prevent or treat metabolic diseases? And we require a lot of research in this field before we can surely say that gut microbiota is a tool to prevent or treat a variety of metabolic diseases, including type 2 diabetes. Thank you very much.